We had only four games and 8 teams in action yesterday, and out of that, the Warriors had a terrible loss against the Orlando Magic. The Nuggets and Clippers played out a fine game, Jokic dominating as he did all season. But in the most fun game of the day, Trey Young went to Madison Square Garden yet again, dropped Taj Gibson on his butt, and ends up with 45 points and called the crowd quiet. That guy embraces the role of a villain, and I'm loving it. I mean, there are very few characters like that who wants to be the villain, who wants to be the bad guy, and uh, provoke the crowd. Trey Young is one of those. He's enjoying it, and he's putting up a show every time he goes there. I think,
Especially the
uh,
Garden, yeah.
especially the Garden. Exactly, I totally love it. On today's episode, though, I want to talk about a team that uh, nobody's talking about in the West. When you talk about the West, they're talking about how the Warriors are injured. They're talking about how Phoenix Suns are so good, how Memphis Grizzlies have made that leap and all of that. But everyone's forgetting the Utah Jazz. So let's talk about
Yeah.
Utah on today's episode. The Jazz are fourth, just 2 games behind the third spot of the Warriors, and the Warriors are in a free fall. So they might as well get the third seed. Now, when you look at the Western Conference standings, right, and look at it from the bottom of the playoff playing teams, the Lakers are terrible. The Clippers are okay, but you don't really expect the Clippers to go out and do great things without Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Uh, Timberwolves, it'll be their first time in the playoffs, so you don't expect them to go
Yeah.
make a deep run. Denver Nuggets, they don't have Jamal Murray and MPJ yet, with just 10 games remaining in the regular season. You don't know how strong they'll be and what they can do. And if you skip the Utah Jazz and go to Memphis Grizzlies, it's going to be their first big season with expectations, right? So don't know how you told us several times in the past. If a team is going to the playoffs for the first time,
Yeah.
I know it's this Grizzlies second season in a row, but first time with any expectations. You don't expect the Grizzlies to win. And the Warriors. The Warriors don't have Steph Curry. The trio of Klay Thompson, Steph, and Draymond has played 1.5 games in 3 years. So unless they know what they can do together despite that big gap, and they come back as they as you expect them to play, it's going to be tough for the Warriors. Let's say with all those misses of throughout the season, Clay, Draymond, Steph missing different phases in the season. And then you have just one team left. You have just Phoenix Suns, who are definitely stronger. Chris Paul will be coming back soon, probably later this week. Does this mean that Utah Jazz really have a chance this season, which nobody is really talking about?
No, they don't. I think people are not talking about them for a reason. forget all the are we writing them off because they haven't done it in the past, or they've come up short in the past, or whatever else. Who at any point in the season did you look at the Utah Jazz and go, okay, these guys might be onto something and we're sleeping on the Jazz? Not once have I felt it. I felt it against the Hornets sometimes. The Hornets, imagine. The Bulls once in a while. Never ever came up against it. Didn't come up with the Jazz because I haven't seen once any of them step up and take control of a playoff series. Just hasn't happened. It's either the opponent was weak or they came up short against even moderately strong opponents. I've never seen them really kill in a playoff series. I've only seen them drop games. So it's also the makeup of the squad. They were exciting 2 seasons ago because of how good their three shooting was and the kind of depth they had off the bench. Since then, they've lost personnel here and there. They've had some injuries. They've had some drop in form, and really the only consistent piece there is Donovan Mitchell continues to play well, but yet he plays well enough to be recognized as someone really, really good, but he still remains on the fringes, kind of in and out of all-star conversation, not really breaking into that, oh, this guy's elite mold. Ja Morant's in his second season now. Look where he is in the conversation. Donovan Mitchell has yet to once do that, not once. Very good player. That's about it. Very good player. Gobert,
do you think
one dimensional.
Exactly. Do you think the lack of a second star there, Gobert is a star, but he's just one dimensional. He's probably one of the best defenders in the league, but that's about it. Yeah. Is that hurting the Jazz chance? And where do the Jazz go from here? I mean, if they don't get it done this season, does this consider a bust, and then they have to break up the whole thing and try something new?
I mean, there are mid-sized market city that are happy making money. That's pretty much all they are. And that's what they've been for the longest time. I can't remember really when the Jazz were taken seriously, except maybe when Malone was there. And they faced off against the Bulls back to back. But that's about it. That was like a few seasons of Malone MVPs and that's it. But before and after the Jazz were, I mean, what came after that? Like the Kirilenko era, AK-47, very creatively named. But the Jazz were always like a mid-table team that was just happy sitting there making money, building squads. It's a good squad that they built. I wouldn't call it a bust at all. Not everyone plays with the intent of winning a championship, and it's not like it's the end of the road for the squad. A lot of them are still young. There's things you can do, but to say a second star is what is the lack of a second star player is what is costing them. I'm not even going there, because what I'm saying is I'm not so sure they even have the first star of what it takes to be a championship team or even a serious playoff threat. I'm saying Donovan Mitchell has forever been on the fringes. He has not really kicked that door down.
Okay. So someone like Donovan Mitchell now, who you think would want to go on and win bigger trophies and glory, right? Do you think he'd be happy if they don't really make a run this time? And would he ask out? I mean, that's the thing, right? I mean, there are teams like the Memphis Grizzlies now who are being talked as contenders. Phoenix Suns rose from the ashes. They were barely invited to the bubble, and now they're a championship favorite. In the West, at least, they are the favorites. The Warriors were terrible 2 seasons ago, but you can put off the Warriors aside because they didn't have anyone then. Luka Doncic has taken his team, and now they've been talked about as the strong team. So, someone like Donovan Mitchell, what do you think he would do? Like, if they don't really make a serious run for the title? In mute.
With Gobert and Mitchell, I get the same feeling we got from Embiid and Simmons a while ago. This is just a train wreck waiting to happen. I don't know why it is. There's really no basketball sense behind this. It's just there was those tensions during the COVID time and where Donovan Mitchell felt and a lot of teammates felt Gobert could have been a little more careful. He was very careless around teammates and just strange times. I don't know why I feel that we'll come to a situation where we think this duo has to be broken up. And if it has to be broken up, who do you get rid of? Who's the first to blink? Who's the one to put a trade request? No, of course. I mean, it makes sense to keep the younger guy who can score. You always keep the younger guy who can score when you have a choice between two players. Is there a market for Gobert? There's been enough slander now that is there really that big a market for Gobert?
3-time DPOY, you would expect that somebody would be interested.
Doesn't matter. Dwight Howard was a multiple DPOY. What market?
Well, Dwight Howard was still in demand during his younger days. So he even went to the Lakers.
Not really, to be honest. So he was tossed around quite a bit. Lakers were the only ones to demand him. He went to the Rockets there, lasted a season. Went to the Hawks, lasted a season. Just bounced around here and there. I'm not saying nobody will take Gobert. I'm saying will the Jazz get a haul for him? The kind of haul you should get for a DPOY, I don't think so. I don't think.
That contract is huge too, and not many people would be willing to take that.
Correct. So and by the way, that's just for some gossip. I don't think they should break up. Not at least this duo. I think they should continue to build around them. If Conley and Bogdanovich, etc., are not the answer, then somebody else is. But I think they have a good squad around which to build. A good young talent. They have some defense. I think it's a nice team. It's a nice org. They can build. So that's another reason why I say it's not a disaster, but it is going a whole lot slower than you would expect it to. Would Donovan Mitchell want to leave? He can. There would be arenas where he would be welcomed. But again, his biggest problem is connected to the Jazz not doing well, which is he has not yet kicked that superstar door down. He hasn't entered that room.
Right.
So the teams that want him don't really want him to be the face of the franchise. I'd be surprised. And the teams that want him to be the face, like a Detroit, is another rebuild job anyway. Why don't you stay at Utah and build? So just the game theory doesn't add up. But let's see where it goes.
All right, let's see. The Jazz are in action today against probably the most informed team in the league, the Boston Celtics. So that'll be an interesting matchup. That just one amongst the 11 games we have, out of which it's a blockbuster series of games today. Brooklyn take on Memphis, which is going to be great. Warriors take on Miami. That's going to be great. So I'm going to be watching a ton of action today. But that's all on today's
Yep.
episode. I'll come back and talk to you tomorrow.
All right. Peace.
Bye.